Okay, I think we're recording. Good. All right. So this part of the video is about facts and truth and the relationship between the two things. All right. So facts about the world are truth makers for propositions. A proposition, you can recall, is any statement like my shirt is black, or this is Oklahoma, or Taco Bell is a fast food restaurant, what have you. Okay. Uh, Facts about the world are what make propositions true or false. So here's an example. This thing weighs 20 pounds. That's the proposition. What makes it true? Well, the physical properties of the thing, like what it's made from and the density of the said substances, and the local physical properties like gravity and so on and so forth. In other words, physical facts about the world make it so that the proposition as stated is true. If the proposition is stated some other way, this weighs 40 pounds, it would not be true because the physical facts don't support it. If we were in a place where the physical facts were different, like on the moon, where everything is like, what, 1/6 of what it weighs on Earth? I don't know. I don't remember my astronomy class. It was a long time ago. The point is, let's say it's 1/6, I guess. That would be 3 point some odd pounds. Get off the... Sorry. The cat was on something it shouldn't have been on. Anyway, that would be 3 point some odd pounds. And that will be true. This thing weighs 3 point some odd pounds. Anyway, so different physical facts. Leave that alone. All right. Different physical facts would make different propositions about the physical facts true or false. This is straightforward. Okay. Here's another proposition. This thing is a chair. What makes that true? Well, these are socially designated properties. This thing is designated a chair, which is to say a piece of furniture that is designed for the express purpose of a single person to sit on. Now note that chair is a different kind of property than can sit on it. As has been mentioned in class before, everything is chair. And in that sense, in the sense of you can sit on pretty much everything, that's true. But many things that you can sit on are still not chairs, because being able to sit on it is only one property of a chair. Being expressly designed to be sat upon is another property of something being a chair. So anyway, but notice that what makes it true that this thing is a chair are various social facts, not physical facts, but social facts, about people's intentions, about the words that we use and the categories that we use in society, so on and so forth. So we've mentioned both social and physical facts as truth makers. Facts, the truth maker. It's a Mentos joke. You guys probably don't get it. Anyway, that's fine, whatever. Social facts can act as truth makers, just like physical facts. Social facts generally supervene on physical facts. Here's an example that uses a performative utterance. We talked about performative utterances earlier in the semester. This cat, he's over there. He's not messing with anything right now, thankfully. This cat is named Elias. There are physical facts about the vibrations in the air that produce certain experiences of sound in most humans. Those are the physical facts of that. The social facts are that there are particular meanings in our society associated with that sound, associated with those sounds that you experience when the vibrations, when the physics goes in your face, as we say. And the social facts supervene or depend on the physical facts. If the physical facts were different from what they were, the social facts would also be different. There's a relationship, a kind of one-way relationship, where it's not because of physics, it's because of a variety of complex social relationships and institutions that make it so that those social facts are attached to those physical facts in a particular way. Now you can see, for instance, like one way of illustrating this is that, have you seen that video? Maybe I'll try and find it and insert it into this one. That might be a higher level of technical capacity than I have. I don't know. There's a video of a cat that seems to be able to say, like, hello or something like that. It's just making a noise. It's just meowing in a weird way, and it sounds kind of like it's saying hello or good morning. I don't remember what the video is. I'll find it, whatever. Maybe I'll link to it. Who knows? That's just how that works. But it's not actually saying that, is it? It's making the right noise, but purely by accident. The cat doesn't know what it's saying. The cat doesn't know what noise it's making. It has no self-awareness. It has no metacognition. It probably doesn't even have any real cognition. Maybe a little bit. So it doesn't actually say anything. The meaning associated with those noises depends upon certain mental states being active, being in effect. And so the fact that the social fact is absent, the physical fact is present, the social fact is absent. It doesn't supervene on just every instance of that noise. It only supervenes on certain instances of the noise, according to certain other social institutions and social facts. But anyway, a supervenience relationship is where one set of facts depends upon the existence of another set of facts. So the noise vibrations in the air produced by me forcing air over the various meat bits in my throat and mouth, those are physical facts. The meaning attached to them are social facts. And the meaning attached to whatever noises I make would be different if the noises were different. So if the physical facts are different, the social facts are different. Does that make sense? I don't know why I'm asking. This is a video. You can't answer me. I'll assume it makes sense. If it didn't, I don't know. Go take a walk. Think about it. I'm not really sure how to advise you. This is why I don't like video. But whatever. We're doing this anyway. Okay. So let's turn our attention to normative propositions. Okay. So normative propositions are just like any other propositions, which is to say they can be true or false, and they must have truth makers in order to be true. I can say you should eat a ton of butter if you want to be healthy, but that's false. Why is it not true? Well, physical facts. The physical facts about the chemical composition of butter and the way my metabolism works, or human metabolisms work, and the way that our bodies digest butter and things like that. The physical facts do not support that proposition. It's a normative proposition, but that doesn't change the fact that it still needs truth makers. So let's go back to our 20-pound object. Here's a proposition. If I don't want to hurt myself, I should lift this thing from my knees. Okay. That's a normative proposition. It uses all the right, it's a hypothetical. It uses should. I should lift this thing from my knees. It would be good to lift this from my knees. I could just sort of shorthand it that way. It would be good to lift it from my knees. What makes it true? Physical facts. physical facts about the weight of the chair, my poorly developed muscles, my scoliosis, etc. Things like that. Physical facts make that true. Okay. It's a normative proposition. Like all other normative propositions, it establishes a claim on the rationality of my behavior. If the antecedent is true, that is, if I don't want to hurt myself, then it would be irrational to do anything other than follow the advice of the second part, the consequent. Anyway, I promise you, they really did give me a PhD. Anyway, it would be irrational. Why won't this thing stay lit? Okay. It would be irrational not to lift from the knees. Okay, so the physical facts are truth makers of this proposition. And that means that given certain mental states and intentions on my part, that is what fulfills the hypothetical, if I don't want to hurt myself. If I do want to hurt myself, like I go crazy, right? Knock yourself out. Lift from your back, whatever, go nuts. But assuming certain mental states on my part, like I don't want to hurt myself, we can establish that certain things are or are not rational based solely on the physical facts. Notice that normativity is not just socially created. You can have, that's a practical or prudential norm that we just identified there. If I want to achieve the practical end of not hurting myself, then I should lift from my knees. Okay, good deal. Physical facts are truth makers. Now, obviously, as we discussed above, social facts can also be truth makers. There's nothing special about social facts that mean they can't be truth makers. Here's an example, proposition. If I want to get service in a fast food restaurant, I should walk up to the counter and not just walk in and sit down and wait to be served. Okay. Hello, Basil. All right, that's Basil. He's 10. Are you 10? You're 10 or 11. Get away from there. You know you're not... Okay. Leave that alone. Anyway, that's Basil. Basil wants pets. Basil cannot have pets. I'm doing something else right now. Isn't that right? Okay. All right. Where was I? Taco Bell. Right. What makes it true? What makes this proposition true? Well, obviously, it makes it true is the social facts about the situation. Social facts about how fast food restaurants work in this area, and so on and so forth. If the social facts were different, the proposition would be false, or maybe a different proposition would be true. Whatever. But the social facts are what make that true. Now, since likewise, this is a similar situation to lifting. Get off of there. Get off of there. Fine. I don't care if you're mad. This is a similar situation to lifting things. If I want to get food, rather, it will be irrational to just walk in and sit down and wait to be served. That would not be a rational thing to do. So the normativity establishes the claim to rationality, and you can tell whether normative propositions are true or false based on explaining their relationship to the underlying facts, whether those are social facts or physical facts. Now, they'll ground out in physical facts. Social facts will ground out in physical facts somewhere, but we don't need to go to that level of explanation. Like, I can explain adequately why it's true that I should walk up to the counter and ask for food rather than waiting to be served if I want to get served. I can explain why that's true purely on the social facts. I don't have to delve into the physical facts about the neuron activity states of the people who first made this a custom or whatever. I don't have to get into that. I mean, ultimately, if we push deep enough down, that stuff will come into it. but it's unnecessary. I don't have to get into that in order to explain what's going on. Okay, so facts, truth makers, uh, facts are the facts about physical or the social world are what make propositions true, even normative propositions. Now, this is going to be crucial in the next bit, where we're trying to figure out what the ontology of moral propositions are. Because moral propositions, are supposed to be categorical and intrinsically have intrinsic value. The moral things have intrinsic value, and crap, that's going to be really hard. So we're going to get into that in just a second. So all right. Hopefully this has been helpful. Again, this is where I would pause and ask for questions, but this is a video. I don't really have any way of asking for questions. If you don't get it, like, I don't know, talk to your dog or stare at the ceiling for a little while. I don't know, do something to help you, whatever works it out, I guess. Comment section, should I have one? I don't know, whatever. Give me a second and I'll pause this and then we'll pick back up. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the nature of value and value claims and how this whole truth maker thing applies to this, and with respect to the ontology of value and ethics. So when we say something is good, we're saying it has value, which is just a normative claim or a value claim. You can use those terms interchangeably. Now, another way of saying, if I don't want to hurt myself, I should lift this thing from the knees, is just to say, if I don't want to hurt myself, it would be good to lift this thing from my knees. The should and the good, you can see how they sort of swap out there. Saying something is good means this is the thing you want, and in that hypothetical, it's what you want in that situation. Okay, so we can even shorthand that further. If we're making some pretty plausible and safe assumptions about most people not wanting to hurt themselves, we can just shorthand it to, it's good to lift from your knees. We can even phrase it as a command, as an imperative. We can say, lift from the knees. And you've heard people say that, lift from the knees, right? People say that to me sometimes. I don't know why, just randomly. People walking on the street, they're just like, lift from the knees. And I'm like, good advice, pal. Or sometimes they say, you don't know me. Anyway, whatever. But that's just a shorthand way of making the normative claim. You should lift from your knees if you don't want to hurt yourself, and assuming you don't want to hurt yourself, and asserting the norm of rationality. You should be rational. Take all those three things together. A, I assume you don't want to hurt yourself. B, you're supposed to be rational. And C, if you don't want to hurt yourself, it's good to lift from the knees. Conclusion, lift from the knees. So there you go. So that's how we often shorthand these things. But if you unpack it, the meaning is there. It's still a normative claim. Okay. Now, the reason why we're concerned about this, the reason why we've gone to the trouble of establishing this whole thing about truth makers for claims, is that value claims, like, say, lifting from the knees is good. Value claims, when we unpack them, we generally just mean, like, lifting from the knees is good if you don't want to hurt yourself. Cool. And that turns out to be a hypothetical, right? That turns out to be a hypothetical value. If, then. If you don't want to hurt yourself, then lifting from the knees is good. Boom. Hypothetical value. Okay. Now, what makes that true? Well, as we discussed before, physical facts. Okay. The worry is that it's going to be difficult to find categorical value in either the physical or the social world. So, okay, for instance, categorical value is really big. I mean, categorical value is huge. It's supposed to be get off of that. Sorry. It's supposed to be all-encompassing, categorical value. That means, okay, if we thought that the categorical value, or that it was a categorical value, that it's good to save money. How about that? Some people like to say it's good to save money. Good to save money. That is a hypothetical value. It's just a hypothetical with a lot of applicability, very wide applicability. But there was a time when money didn't exist, right? Would that value claim, it's good to save money, could that have been true? No. Because the social facts that make it true, or that would have made it true, weren't in existence. There's no such thing as money, for instance. If there's no such thing as fast food restaurants, then the value claim, if you want to get service, it's good to go up to the counter in a fast food restaurant rather than walk in and sit down. That's not true either, because there are no fast food restaurants. The whole claim is not just not true, it's nonsense. It lacks truth value, because the underlying, there's nothing for it to supervene on. There are no facts for that to make that true. Okay. So, we're narrowing in on this. So we have to ask things like, it's wrong to murder. Right? What could possibly make that true? I mean, murder is a social fact. I mean, murder is a social thing, right? Not all killing is murder. Murder depends upon, I don't know, intent, all kinds of things. It depends on circumstances. I mean, surely, killing someone in self-defense isn't murder, probably. But that depends upon a lot of stuff. Attitudes, what's in various people's minds, motives, and so forth. That's not the kind of thing that has existed forever. That's not the kind of thing that could be true outside of certain facts about humans and society. So how can it be categorically true? How could that be a categorical truth? It's baffling. So there's an ontological question about what kinds of facts could qualify as truth makers for categorical and intrinsic value claims. Claims of categorical and intrinsic value. The other concern is, even if those facts did exist, how would we know about them? And so, for instance, how do we get information about the physical world? Well, as we learned in the epistemology section, this all connects. I told you it would. As we learned in the epistemology section, Kant's proposal was that we get information about the physical world from a combination of the physics going in our face and the wiring of our brain that is adapted to the physics that go in our face, and thus, we get something useful out of that. Cool. We get information about the physical world. But we've already established that good and bad, as far as moral properties, are not things that are physical, probably. It doesn't seem like it. What are physical properties? Mass, size, texture. How do I gather those? Physics, right? The physics. How do I figure out the texture of a surface? Right? I can touch a surface, and physics happens between the surface and my fingertips, and neuron, electricity, brain stuff, Kant, and I get information about the texture. What on earth would possibly be the story of physical facts that we could tell that result in the truth of something being good? In the moral sense, maybe in the prudential sense, with regard to good for keeping me alive. Right? This food is good for keeping me alive. That doesn't even require mental intentions. That doesn't even require me to want something. Right? So, I mean, that's an even better example than the lift from your knees example. Because it doesn't matter what I want. It's just true that this thing has value for keeping me alive because of physical facts. The physical facts of the chemistry of the food and the chemistry of my body and how digestion works and so on and so forth. Those things are true. Just period. End of story. But what kind of story could possibly end up linking a claim of this is morally good? It's morally good to give, to love your family. It's morally good not to take a life. What kinds of physical facts could possibly, what kinds of physical facts could possibly do that? Doesn't seem like there are any. And then if we turn to the social world for that, what kinds of social facts might explain it's good? Okay, sure, but then it seems like most of those social facts will turn out to only support a hypothetical claim. It's good to love your family. I mean, maybe if they're not toxic, if hypothetical circumstances, the fact that societies are what we call contingent, which means they didn't have to exist. They could have existed or not existed. That means that facts that are based on societies are pretty much ruled out from being categorical. That was the word. They really did give me a PhD. Categorical. So that's worrisome. Now, extrinsic, intrinsic fare a little better. So let's turn our attention there and maybe see if we can get some traction on that, and then come back to the categorical thing. Okay, hold on a minute. Okay, now, fortunately, the whole extrinsic, intrinsic thing isn't nearly as hard as the categorical, hypothetical issue when it comes to ethics and the truth makers, where to find the truth-making facts. There are concerns about finding categorical moral facts in the physical or social world. Might be only hypotheticals. We'll explore more of that shortly. But it's obvious that there can be things that have intrinsic value, or that you can find truth makers for intrinsic value claims as well as extrinsic value claims. For instance, the food. I mentioned the thing about the food. It can be a true claim of value that this food is good for keeping me alive. And that doesn't depend on my mental states or my intentions at all. So that's a nice one that only requires physical facts. So that's cool. It's a value claim. It's got truth makers in the physical world. We like that. It's not categorical value. The value is hypothetical. If you're human, this is good for keeping you alive. I don't think there would be any food that has a categorical value, because it's all relative to. I don't think any food is good for keeping all animals alive, right? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. We'll think about that later. But it's easy to see that its value is extrinsic, not intrinsic. Its value depends upon, it's good for something. It's good for. If there were another equally good way of keeping me alive that did not involve that food, I would have no reason to prefer that food over a different one just on that basis. Think of it as though, think of it like this. You have a choice of route A or route B to get to school. And route A and route B will take you exactly the same amount of time, same amount of gas, everything. There's no difference in them experientially either. You shouldn't care which one you take. Rationally speaking, there's no reason to prefer one over the other. Their value is precisely similar. So there's no, I mean, you could randomly choose and it would be rational because it doesn't matter. Now, but there are truth makers for intrinsic value in the physical world. Why do I like Mountain Dew? I just do, man. I just do. It has to do with my mental states. And maybe you think mental states are all just reducible to neuron firing and brain chemistry. Maybe they are. And if they are, cool. Then the facts that make it true that I like Mountain Dew are physical facts. There are physical facts that are truth makers. Mountain Dew has intrinsic value in that sense. The value is still hypothetical because it's only valuable if you're me. If you're my wife, it's not good. If you're me, this has value. If you're not me, it might not have value. Maybe it does. If you like Mountain Dew, maybe it doesn't. But the value is intrinsic. It's not good for anything. Now, that's not to say that I've never tried to employ the extrinsic value of Mountain Dew. Sometimes I drink it for the caffeine so I can stay awake. In which case, if I had another option that gave me the same amount of caffeine, should I have no preference? No, I should have a preference. Why? Because there's also the intrinsic value I attach to it. Right? You see, let's say this has an extrinsic value. The caffeine will keep me awake. It's good for keeping me awake. And I have something else. This is water, but let's pretend it's a magic liquid that has no taste. My wife would say that's just water. She doesn't like that. She says water doesn't taste like anything. I think water tastes like something. It tastes like water. I don't get it. I like the taste of water. Anyway. Whatever. Point being, let's imagine this is something that has no intrinsic value for me whatsoever. Totally neutral. It has no affective, I have no affective preference or dispreference for it. In that case, if both of them have the same amount of caffeine in them, I would still prefer this because they have identical extrinsic value, but this one also has intrinsic value for me. It just tastes good. I like it. There's an intrinsic value to it. Okay, so it's possible to find intrinsic value makers, truth makers for intrinsic value claims in the physical world, maybe the social world. I don't know. That one's iffy. That depends on where you think mental processes live. Are they just reducible to the physical, or are they partially in the social world? I don't think we have to get into that. That's more philosophy of mind, and we don't really care about that right now as such. But we know, okay, so if we're looking for where is a place where the truth makers for moral value claims could be, then half of it, the intrinsic part, that could be in the physical or social world. But the categorical part, looking iffy, looking very iffy. Okay, I gotta pause this so I can put the food in the oven. All right. Okay, so we're coming into the home stretch here. The epistemic problem that is connected to the ontology of value claims and values. Now, ontology is a sub-branch of metaphysics, and it deals with the study of what exists and properties of things that exist. When we were talking about physical facts and social facts, we were talking ontology. Um, I mean, most of us freely acknowledge that there's a physical world that exists. Maybe we have reason to be skeptical of the physical world, but we can probably just accept it. I think it's safe enough. Maybe we can't know 100% that it exists, but it's probably a pretty good damn bet. Let's just say that. Maybe its true nature is not quite what we think it is. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it's out there, and it acts as a truth maker for certain kinds of claims. The social world clearly exists. And that's weird because, like, even if the physical world is all a simulation, like some kind of weird matrix thing, the social world would still exist. It would be based on, it would supervene on something other than we think it does, but it would still exist. So, cool, I guess. But the social world exists. Now, how do we have knowledge of the physical world? As I said earlier, through our senses. If we're empiricists of any variety, we get it through our senses. If we're Lockean empiricists, physics goes in our face, we have a phenomenal experience, and we associate those phenomenal experiences with complex ideas. Boom. If we are worried about Kant, or worried about Hume's problem of induction, then we can take up Kant's answer to that. And we say, all right, the physical world works the way it works. Our brains are adapted to it. We get the information. Boom. Still fair enough. Notice, however, that everything comes down to the operation of our senses. Right? How do I get information about the social world? Ultimately, through my senses. Right? It doesn't just pop into my head. I get information like, how do I know what the cat's name is? The cat's name is a social fact, not a physical fact. If we could dissect the cat, don't dissect your cat. We could dissect the cat, or any cat. Don't dissect anyone's cat. Not even yours, but definitely not someone else's. Or even an unknown cat. Don't dissect cats. Let's just go with that. We could dissect the cat and blood test it and reduce it down to its molecular composition, and we would never find its name as a physical property. The physical property is only accessible in the social world. But in order to get access to it, I have to interact with the physical world. I have to say to someone, I force air through my meat flaps and I make a noise. What is the cat's name? And the physics go in their face. And the stuff happens in the brain, and they've assigned meaning to those noises, and they know I want to know the cat's name. And they go, the cat's name is Elias. And I go, oh, the cat's name is Elias. And now I know something, and I got access to that fact only because of things that supervene. This is why I was talking about supervenience. I wasn't just wasting your time. Only because of things that supervene on the physical world. Basil, what? Mommy will be home soon. Come on, chill out. I think he's just upset because I'm yelling. I only have access to those facts because of senses that interact with the physical world. Now, hopefully you can see where I'm going and why this is such a problem. Moral properties do not seem to be physical properties. What sense is the one that detects good? Can I see it? Can I hear it? Can I taste it? You smell evil, right? I don't know, man. That doesn't seem plausible. So there's an epistemic problem. If we want to locate moral value outside of the physical or social world and be empiricists, I don't know, give up? Tough shit? I'm not sure. Because empiricism, even Kantian empiricism, although Kant has a way around this, which is pretty clever, we'll get to that. Even Kantian empiricism seems to leave us with no vector for getting knowledge of moral value, of moral properties. Moral properties exist in some world that is not physical and does not supervene on the physical, then we have to ask, how do our senses apprehend it, apprehend the good? How do we know when something is good? Get off of that. How do we know when something is good? That's going to be a problem. And suddenly, things like the realm of forms and Descartes' rationalism seem a little less nuts, because rationalist approaches can short-circuit the whole thing. Rationalists say that we get knowledge from some certain deductive source. We don't need empiricism to get knowledge. We don't need the interaction of the senses with the physical world to have knowledge. And that suddenly sounds really awesome, because it can rescue ethics. It can go, oh, I can know value claims after all, yay! Yay! And so that's good. But we didn't think very much of rationalism, if you recall. We were like, that sounds dumb. And it does kind of sound dumb in a lot of ways. So when we come back, we're going to be taking on sort of the big three ethical theories: virtue theory, deontology, and consequentialism. Get off of that. And consequentialism. And we're not only going to be looking at the substantive content, the normative content of these theories, we're going to be talking about how each theory confronts the meta-ethical questions of ontology and epistemology. That is, where they think the value is located. Hello, Basil. Where they think the value is located. Where they think the cat is located. The answer is the back of the chair. See, philosophy is so simple. Where they think the value is located, and how we apprehend the existence of the value. There are some truly wacky theories out there. Get off of that. There are people, it's almost as if they don't understand English. There are people who have just like given up and said, you have a sense that detects good and bad. I don't know. It's intuitive. Whatever. And there are people who have tried to argue that it's deductive, that we can just deduce goodness. I don't know, man. So there's a lot going on here. But that's what we'll be doing when we get back. And I want you to read the stuff on the Aristotle and the Rosalind Hursthouse, which is, I think, I and J, or J and K. Anyway, whatever. Just read that by the time we get back, and we should be all right. Okay, good. I hope this has been helpful to somebody. Yay. Bye.